Okay, in this episode, what we're going to do is run through some basic process control for replenished developers. Now, there's a number of ways you can do this. Ilford does, in fact, actually make process control strips. So what you'll see here is I have one process control strip here that I've already measured. This one is one that I've ran on the last batch of black and white, and what we use to measure it in this particular case, even though I do have a full color densitometer in the other room, for black and white we use this little Konica densitometer, and basically what it does is it measures. You place your film here, the patch that you want to measure gets placed over this little spot here, and you hit the read, and it reads the transmission density of the film and gives you that number in log units here. So I've already zeroed it out, so it's reading 0 because there's nothing in the gate here. But what we do is Ilford's control strips. Here is our film base plus fog. This is our low density patch. This is our high density patch, and then this is our D max. Okay, and what we're looking for is to measure the low density and the high density, and then calculate the difference between the two of them. Per Ilford standards, for the developer that we use here, we use replenished Ilfotech DD. So per Ilford standards, this control strip is FP4 plus. And so what it basically means is we run it for the standard 8.5 minutes at 24 degrees Celsius with continuous agitation, and we measure HD minus LD in log units. And per Ilford's standards for replenishment, that difference should be 0.8 plus or minus 0.06. So you'll notice here I did on the this last run, 1.27 minus 0.41 comes out to 0.86. So we're a little bit on the active side. We're on the verge of going out of bounds on our development, and what that means is we want to reduce our replenishment rate by just a teeny weeny bit, not a lot. We're not out of bounds yet, but we want to reduce it by just a teeny weeny bit. Try to get this between 0.74 and 0.86. Personally, I prefer to keep it between 0.8 and 0.86, but this control strip was run with only one roll of film. And what I did to reduce the replenishment level is I just dumped the developer back in the working tank with no replenishment at all, because it was only one roll of film. And so that will bring the activity level down a little bit by doing that, because we didn't replenish one roll of film. Now, if it was more than one roll of film, then I absolutely would have done the normal replenishment routine and probably reduced the replenishment by one roll. So if I processed 5 rolls, I would have done the replenishment for 4 rolls. So effectively, I've done the same thing. We've just reduced the replenishment by just a teeny bit, just to get the activity level down just a little bit. This control strip here was run with that new replenished rate. So we processed one roll of film with this one here. It came out a little hot, 0.86. So we just dumped the developer back into the working tank with no replenishment. That will reduce the activity level a little bit. This control strip we ran with 2 rolls of film, and then no replenishment for the one roll that was run with this control strip here. So we're going to measure this and see what it comes out to. So basically what you do is you put your thing here, and I'm doing this by myself, so I got to do this all one-handed. Here's our D min, and this is purely just so that we can look at it. So our D min is 0.31. So what I generally like to do is take a Sharpie, 0.31. Now we're going to measure our LD, read, and basically what this densitometer is doing is it's reading our transmission level, 0.39 log units. Okay, 0.39. Now we're going to read our high density. All right, here we go. Place it in there. Put this down. Read 1.19. So I can already tell it came down actually quite a bit. We may be on the other end. And then we're going to go ahead and do our Dmax. Dmax 1.76. All right. So purely from a process control perspective, our Dmax previously was 1.81. The new one is 1.76. So it's already a little lower. We were previously 1.29 relative to an open gate, or I'm sorry, 1.27. We're now 1.19, so that's actually come down a lot. 0.41 versus 0.39, 0.30. In this case, our film base plus fog did come up a little bit, but that's okay. 0.01 is within the realm of error. So how we calculate this is we go 1.19 minus what is that? 0.39. 0.39. So our activity level is exactly 0.8, which is right on target. So by reducing the activity level by the equivalent of one roll, our target level is now 0.8. Now we process 2 rolls of film with this control strip. So our new replenishment level, since we're on target, is normal. So we're going to put the replenishment in chemistry into the working tank for 2 rolls of film. We have another roll of film here, a roll of HP5 to process. It's a customer roll, so I can't show you what's on it. But we have another roll of film here to process. So we're going to replenish the tank for 2 rolls of film because this is right on target now. And then we're going to run this roll with another control strip just to verify that we are in fact still on target. And if everything is okay, then the next control strip will also be 0.8, pretty close to it. So we'll do that next. Okay, we've got our film and our control strip loaded in the tank. We've got our chemistry, with the exception of the developer, coming up to temperature, and the tank is on the Jobo in the tempering bath, coming up to temperature. Now what we're going to do is, this is the replenishment regime. Okay, so this is our bottle of working solution of Ilford Ilfotec DD. This is the last bottle that we processed with the control strip that came out to 0.80. So there were 2 rolls of film processed with this bottle. Per Ilford's documentation for DD, per roll of film that you process, you need to put 50 milliliters of 1+4 Ilfotec DD in your working solution bottle. Okay, so since we processed 2 rolls of film, that means I took and filled this up to 20 milliliters of the concentrated solution and then diluted the rest with distilled water up to 100 milliliters. So we've got 100 milliliters of 1+4 DD for the 2 rolls of film that we put in. So basically the way this works, the way replenished systems work, is we have our bottle of working solution here. Okay, this gets poured in like so. So this is brand new, fresh developer, freshly mixed just now, being poured into the bottle of working solution. And then we take our bottle that we just processed the film with, and we top this bottle up. Okay, so we pour that in until this bottle is completely full. And what that gives us at the very end here is we have a little bit of developer left in this bottle. And that we just discard, like so. Okay, now usually if it's going to be a while, I'll rinse this bottle out and put it out to dry, but because we're going to go process some film here, we're going to take this, fill this back up, put it in the tank and get it up to temperature. And not only, I need 2 hands to do it, so I need to stop this to do that. Okay, we have everything loaded up in the chemistry. There's our bottle of developer stop fix. Right now it's at 24.6. It'll come down to 24.5 in a few minutes. I just put this in, so we got to give it enough time for everything to come up to temperature. And then what we'll do is we'll process this tank for 8.5 minutes. And stop and fix, put it up to dry, and then we'll, once the control strip is dry, we'll be able to look at it and measure it and see if we're still on target. Okay, and so here is the third control strip that we've run. So this was the original here, where we had 0.86. Then we and only 1 roll of film was run in it, so we dumped the developer back in with no replenishment, ran 2 rolls of film, came out to 0.8, did our normal replenishment for 2 rolls of film, ran 1 more roll of film, came out to 0.84, which is pretty much where I'd like to keep it. Like I said, per Ilford spec, it's 0.8 plus or minus 0.06. So the range could be anywhere from 0.86 to 0.74. I personally like to have it a little more active, so I like to keep it between 0.8 and 0.86. So 0.84 is pretty much right on target for where I like to have it. And so we'll just keep monitoring this. Every time we run film through, we monitor the process, and we run a control strip, and we just monitor the activity level. And that's how you do it, is you just have a sequence of these. Like I said, Ilford makes FP4 control strips, so you just run a control. This comes in a 100-foot roll. There's a whole pile of these control strips here in there, and you just run one for 8.5 minutes every time you want to check the activity level, and then adjust your replenishment rate up or down depending on where the activity level is. So that's how you do it. It's kind of a continuous thing, and that's how you monitor your activity level for your development, using control strips. Now you can do this same thing with other developers if you want to monitor the activity level of those developers. You basically just set a process time that you're going to run the control strip for. Always run the control strip at that time, temperature, and agitation level, and then you can monitor your activity level of the developer over time. Especially if it's this only does it if it's a replenished developer, right? If you're using it one shot or anything of that nature, you don't do that. But if you're running a replenished system, like for example replenished XTOL, you can do the same thing with replenished HC110, replenished Tmax developer. Any replenished developer, in this case, Ilford Ilfotec DD, not DDX, DD. Any replenished developer that you are using, you can use this and use these process control strips. Now, I happen to use Ilford's that they manufacture. You can do a similar thing. This D-Min is film based plus fog. The high density and the low density each are simply, you can do the same thing with a gray card, right? So you can take your gray card, a gray exposure card. Don't expose it reflectively, but expose it using an incident light meter. This low density, if you'll notice, 0.24 is our film base plus fog. The low density typically will be 0.1 roughly above film base plus fog, which basically is right at the toe. So you can set your exposure so that you're for a given film speed, you can use FP4 if you want. You can use pretty much any film you want to make control strips, but FP4 is kind of the standard for Ilford. And basically your low density needs to be about 0.1 above film base plus fog, and your high density needs to be one stop over middle gray, right? So if you effectively what you can do is take an incident reading of your gray card, not a reflective reading, an incident reading of your gray card for the light, add one stop to that, right? So if you come out to 1/60th of a second at f4 at ISO 100 or 125 if you're shooting FP4, then you go, okay, fine, we're going to expose for 1/30th of a second at f4, and then from there reduce your exposure by 5 stops. So the first one will give you your high density, and the second one will give you your low density. So you reduce your exposure by 5 stops. So you go f4, f5.6, f8, f11, f22, f32. If you can't go to f32, then increase your shutter speed a little bit, but ideally you want to do it using the aperture, so maybe f28 to f22, right? So you set your exposure to where f28 is your high density and f22 is your low density. And from there, bada bing, bada bang, process it, measure your high and your low. You do need to have a densitometer. You can use one like this Konica. It's a simple black and white densitometer, transmission densitometer. X-Rite makes it. X-Rite or Konica, whatever, whichever one, but it's the same thing. They're very simple. You can get them for about $100 on eBay, and or you can use a full color one. But for black and white film, that's all you really need. Is you just need to measure these density levels, and you can do a similar thing with a digital camera or a scanner. It's just more complex, but this is just a super simple, literally this densitometer is, like I said, is about $100 on eBay. A box of control strips is like $130, and you can literally run, depending on how much you process, that will keep you, in business for monitoring your development activity for quite some time. Anyway, so that's it for this episode. I just thought I'd give a quick run through of how we do process control for black and white film. For color negative film, it's very, very similar. Kodak makes control strips for C41, which is the color negative process. It's basically very similar to this, except each color channel is measured independently, so you have red, green, blue, and it's not just a black and white. And otherwise it's effectively the same process. Alright, that'll be it. If anybody wants to see that, I can do it, but like I said, once you see it in black and white, it's the same for color. Each color channel is done separately. Alrighty,